Hello, my name is Juvonen, and I'm really excited to be here at the Microsoft 365 Virtual Marathon to talk about our Microsoft 365 Patterns and Practices initiative. So in this session, we're going to talk about all of the assets which are available for you already today to take advantage to support on your day-to-day work. So all of the learnings and guidance and tooling and libraries which will increase your productivity as a developer or as an administrator or even as an end user in certain scenarios. And we're going to go through quite a few demos, quite a few samples among this journey when we walk through what is Microsoft 365 PMP, the patterns and practices, and what it brings for you. Okay, so let's actually get started. You might have been already familiar with Microsoft 365 Patterns and Practices or previously the BMP initiative, but let's actually walk through what this is all about. And basically what we created with the BMP initiative is to ensure that we have assets and reusable tooling available for you to help you to move forward within your work. So we all been there with trying to figure out what is how to make these things happen, or you have a difficult task to actually make, or you need to create a web part or a Microsoft Teams tab or something like that, and you're trying to figure out how would I do that. You read the documentation, you don't quite get it, and you would like to get some help. And that's what the BMP is all about. So we really want to build together this kind of a collective knowledge and community knowledge from where we can then get information around how to get started. So examples, tooling, which will increase your productivity, helping you to be more successful within your day-to-day work. So rather building on the collective knowledge of the community, which we build together, rather than competing with each other or banging your head against the wall on not solving the problems what you want to solve. Now, the BMP initiative has been quite successful throughout the years. We started back in 2014, publicly 1 year before, actually internally in Microsoft. And right now, if you're looking into the latest numbers, it has some massive. It's been massively successful. So we have already more than 500 samples available to learn how to learn and extend to use Microsoft 365. We have more than 1,300 contributors who have contributed to our open source initiatives, including the documentations and samples which are available. The PMP initiative was actually awarded internally in Microsoft as the reference solution or reference model, how to engage with the communities. And we are based on that award and obviously the learnings, we're scaling this model even further. Within the last 2 weeks, we had more than 80,000 visitors in the GitHub repositories under the BMP umbrella, and that includes quite a few repositories. And we're going to talk about during this presentation, how can you find what's relevant for you. We also have more than 42,000 tenants using these open source toolings in the last month, which is a massive number. So there's quite a few different open source tools and components which are available. And from those, they've been used in more than 42,000 tenants. And that number actually keeps on increasing every single month. So it's great to see the adoption growing and growing. We also have our PMP YouTube channel, which had more than 2.8 million watch time minutes within the last 365 days. So there seems to be, there is clearly a nice amount of interest on the videos which are getting produced, which are basically our community calls, our community demos, also tutorials, and all of that is getting released on that YouTube channel on the day-to-day basis. So I would say in approximately, there will be 1 or 2 videos every single day released on that YouTube channel, either by Microsoft or by our community members. But really the key point here to remember is to say thank you as the community member who've been active as part of this journey. You are the people who are actually making this community and open source effort possible. We as a Microsoft employees, we're just facilitating and hopefully being helpful and helping you to be successful on your contribution journey as well. And contributing and obviously from a community perspective, and there's multiple ways of contributing. It is around it's around providing feedback, or then actually truly contributing in a GitHub site. Now, if you think about the Microsoft 365 PMP, we kind of think this through with the 3 different words, and those words are being learn, reuse, and share. So learn being the fact that we provide guidance and assets and reusable, let's say, tooling, which helps you to learn how to extend and use the Microsoft 365. With the reuse means that we provide reusable components, controls, and other script elements and modules which you can use and reuse within your day-to-day work. So open source tooling which will make you more efficient and also more will make you more productive. And then the last word was share. And sharing is really key part of this as well, because sharing is caring. And that basically means that you as a community member, you are sharing your knowledge for the health of others so that they can be as successful as you are. So rather than, like in the intro, rather than every single one of us banging our head against the wall trying to figure out how can I do that, if one of us have already figured it out, we can learn from him or her, and then we can actually share and pass it along to a following person who's trying to learn how to do whatever the task is. Now, within those three different elements, let's actually talk about quickly the learn section. I'm going to be relatively fast on this one because we have really cool reuse demos also coming up as well. But if we list quickly all of our different assets which we have available in the learn section. Obviously, there's the official documentation, but we also have two different YouTube channels. So we have the Microsoft 365 developer videos, which is the official channel for Microsoft 365 developer guidance and some of the community calls. We also have the Microsoft 365 SharePoint community videos, which is more around the community demos, guidance, and also non-development videos, which will help you to be successful not only as an extensibility or as a developer, but also as an end user and administrator. So as an example, pretty recently, well, depending on when you're watching this video, but pretty recently, we had videos related on how to enable multilingual portals in SharePoint as part of the guidance released in that YouTube channel. We have multiple different open source locations. So we have the github.com/office-dev, which is the classic one, github.com/SharePoint for the SharePoint guidance, and github.com/PMP for all of the open source and community tooling and samples. We've been shuffling slightly the GitHub side of the house, but I think you'll find the familiar locations if you've been using this tooling in the past as well. We also have really cool set of sample galleries. We're going to have a look on those as part of the demos as well. So there's a web part galleries, an extension, and list formatting galleries. So you can easily, again, get access on the relevant sample, which will help you to move forward on your day-to-day work. And since there's quite a lot of these different locations and AKMS addresses and all of that, which we're going to go through in this presentation, there's only one URL which helps you to get access on all of this goodies which are available for you for free, which is AKMS M365 BMP. And that's actually redirecting to the Microsoft 365 Patterns and Practices portal or a landing page from where you can actually see then the list of assets and tools and everything else which are available. Now, that's all we're going to do today around the learn section. So let's actually move into the reuse. And reuse was really around the fact that how do we reuse existing assets and existing learnings, what the community have already done. So what are the different components and projects which we're executing as part of the initiative, the BMP initiative? So one of the most maybe known ones pretty recently is probably the lookbook.microsoft.com. And I'm going to skip the demo on this one because we've been demoing the lookbook.microsoft.com quite a lot in the past conferences. So we wanted to actually raise some alternative projects in this video recording. But basically the lookbook.microsoft.com, just if you're not familiar what that is all about, it is basically a location where you can go as a tenant administrator and you can actually have a look on Microsoft designed cool looking modern portals from where you can then pick a template and you can apply that to your tenant. So as long as you're a tenant administrator, you can really easily provision as many site collections with cool looking designs and example content, even documents and news articles as part of the templates, which will then help you to understand what's possible with the modern SharePoint and modern portals within your SharePoint. So it is really around speeding up adoption. So if you are, for example, a consultant, that might be super useful for pre-sales purposes. If you are, let's say, an in-house person and you want to show a cool SharePoint portal for your management chain, you can just provision one from this location and hey, you have a cool looking portal available either from your trial tenant or even from your production tenant if you're a tenant administrator. What's really cool about this as well, it is fully open source. So even the code behind of this application, the lookbook.microsoft.com, is available as a open source solution. So if you're a developer and you're not interested on cool looking UX, but you would like to understand how you can implement similar kind of tools, or you want to enable similar kind of provisioning techniques for your customers, you can actually download the code and have a look on that and adjust that based on your business requirements. Now, moving on different, let's say, components and assets what we have, let's talk about SharePoint Starter Kit. And we're really excited to start, releasing SharePoint Starter Kit V2, so version 2. So we had our original SharePoint Starter Kit released back in, I think it was SharePoint Conference 2018, so it's already 2 years ago from that. And that was really designed to be a sample reference solution on how to build modern portals using then the SharePoint framework and modern SharePoint experiences. Now the V2 is getting now released, or has been released in spring 2020, and it has a modern UX design, which is based on the lookbook design feeling, but also what it has is a completely rewritten set of web parts. And what's really cool about the new architecture is that you can actually take these web parts, or some of the web parts, into a use also in SharePoint 2019 for your on-premises deployment. And also, if only one or two of those web parts are super interesting, which are part of this bigger solution, you can actually install those web parts individually to your tenant. So as an example, you might want to use a web part which says latest emails, or my tasks, or my upcoming meetings, and put that one in the front of your corporate portal, which would show then the personalized information for the user who's accessing the portal. And you now can do that by downloading the solution and installing only the individual web part to your tenant or for your deployment. So really cool stuff, and the address is AKMS SP Starter Kit, which you want to remember. So let's have a quick look on that one. Just going to walk through the different assets which are available around the SharePoint Starter Kit. So what we're basically doing here is that we're taking advantage of some of the designs which we have available from the lookbook side, but then we have actually decorated the layout for Starter Kit with this custom web part. So as you can see, out of the box in SharePoint, you don't have a latest emails, so that is a custom web part which is available as an open source solution for you as well as part of the Starter Kit V2. One of the cool things about these things is that they're actually using Microsoft Graph behind the scenes. They're accessing your relevant data, your tasks, your news is an out-of-the-box one, but as an example, recent documents out-of-the-box one, but tasks and upcoming meetings are the custom ones. So we're kind of demonstrating how you could be able to build exactly the similar kind of capabilities as we have out-of-the-box within the SharePoint, but as a extensibility. So you as a partner can actually implement these things. As part of the Starter Kit V2, you actually get quite a lot of additional web parts which are available. So personal calendar, personal email, personal tasks, and contacts. You get additional set of web parts available. And there's even a web parts which are not part of, or they're not visible anymore because they used to be part of the V1. But as the out-of-the-box SharePoint is providing new capabilities, we're kind of hiding some of the Starter Kit web parts. So all of the Starter Kit assets, they are available as an open source solution. So if we go to the GitHub, github.com/PMP/SP Starter Kit, we can actually see the GitHub location. And right now, actually, I'm going to go to the V2, which is going to be merged to the master pretty soon. So we can actually see the Starter Kit V2 from here, and we'll give you all of the source code, all of the solutions are ready to go. If you just want to have one of those cool looking web parts like my personal email, relatively typical ask for whatever reason, people want to have the latest emails available in the portal, you can actually come in this GitHub repo, download just the SPPKG file, install that to your tenant or first to the test environment, and then verify that it's working and all move forward from there. So all of the individual web parts and solutions are now individually packaged, so you can take those into use in your deployments as well. Now, we're releasing completely new PMP Core SDK, which is targeted to be used in a .NET Core or .NET V5, so .NET Framework V5. And this is really an abstraction layer for Microsoft Graph and REST APIs, which can be used in a .NET Core. So really the modern ways of implementing Visual Studio tooling. And what's really cool about this abstraction layer is that you as a developer, You don't have to understand graph URLs and the REST APIs. You don't have to understand SharePoint REST APIs. You don't even have to understand is the information available from graph or if it's available from a SharePoint REST. So we haven't have this completely different model or an abstraction layer, which you'll use, which supports, for example, link-based accessing information, patching, and all of that stuff. And you'll have let's say, a native, more easier way of doing development, because you can do something like site.web.list.getMeList, and behind of the scenes, all of that is getting translated automatically as the REST calls or graph calls. And again, you don't have to worry about, is it coming from graph, is it coming from REST? All of that is completely seamless for you as a developer. And so this is going to be released as a preview release pretty soon. Well, depending again on when you're watching the video, it is going to be released on May 26th to a preview. And the preview is that it actually already works. There's a model, but we will start working with the community openly and extending this library together with you. And then you can actually give us input on what are the areas which are super important for you. And let's focus on then those areas then first, and then ship a version 1.0 later this year in 2020. Now, let's have a look on the PMP Core SDK in practice, and what does it actually mean from a development experience perspective. Now, we're using the .NET framework, .NET Core way of doing development in here. And really the key point of the PMP Core SDK is that when we're accessing information, we do not have to worry about, first of all, are we hitting which REST API or which graph API, but there's other goodies here as well. So let me actually walk through this one by one from a code perspective. Let me actually run it so we can actually walk through what's happening within the code. And I'm going to zoom in and we're going to have a look on things. I'm going to put actually this small console on the right side, which I'm going to zoom in actually for the relevant information. Let's see if I can actually squeeze it in there. That worked really well. Cool. Now, when we actually start using the PMP Core SDK for .NET Core, we are using always a RESTful API. So it is a graph API or a SharePoint REST API. So behind of the scenes, the SDK or library is aware what is the best option to actually execute. So if the best, from a best performance perspective, is to execute through graph, we're going to execute through the graph. If the better option is actually that we execute through the REST API, in the case of SharePoint, we actually do that automatically as well. And what's really cool about the endings and execution, so as an example, when we're executing or getting lists in here, we can actually see the RESTful outputs in the window as well. So let's see if we can actually find it. So here we go. There's a call which is actually hitting the graph endpoint behind of the scenes, because by default, we are always using the Microsoft Graph. And I know that, yeah, it's small and you don't necessarily actually spot the differences, but trust me, it is the Microsoft Graph call in this particular case, because we're hitting that unique URL and then the lists and the unique list URL. The graph calls are pretty interesting. Now, what's super cool about the library as well, it automatically uses patching behind of the scenes. So in this case, as an example, it is actually patching two different calls automatically to it. So in a normal development, you would actually hit one graph call in the REST API and then another one, and then you would do some shuffling around the data, but we'll package all of that complexity behind of the scenes. You just actually access the information. You can use link way of loading stuff. You can actually say first or default, where the title equals demo 1, and we're going to actually load that one, or we're going to create a list as well. Now, in this case, we are actually doing a team ensure properties primary channels. Let me actually step one more forward. So we can actually see again that it's a graph call to the teams, and then we're getting the information related on the channels of that team as well. Now, what's really, really cool also behind of the scenes is that this library abstracts the RESTful interfaces completely. So you can really easily access and build complex, let's actually do that now slightly more nicely, complex link queries, and behind of the scenes, all of this is getting translated either against the SharePoint REST APIs or against the graph APIs, again, depending on what information is being requested from the object domain model. Now, there's multiple additional goodies which are available. We can do batching, we can update, we can add information, we can do async information or operations, we can do non-async operations, again, depending on how do you want this to operate. If needed, you can, as an example, do batching. So you can batch 20 ads to a single execution, and then that's going to execute all of that as a one entry. So let's see if I can actually demonstrate that in practice. Let's run all the way through there. Not that one more time. Not that one either. We're executing. There's a lot of actually demos available when we're executing. We're actually building the query over there, and we're hitting the execution marker in any seconds. There we go. No, not that one yet. Oh, there we go. But that's the batching section. And running, and operating and testing one more time. And there's the execute async. So we're building the query and the patch, and then we do the execute async. So we can do live executions if we want, or we can build the batch and then execute that as a whole on the right side. It doesn't matter what did we actually execute in this case, but you actually saw a lot of stuff being happening on the wire, so to say, because we were operating multiple sends or adds operation in a single execution. So again, from your development perspective, everything what you need to know is basically just operating with the objects. So let me actually zoom this slightly even bigger. So we can do context.web.lists.add, or as an example, context.team and channels. And you just load these objects and operate the objects, and all of the complexity of the REST APIs is happening automatically for you. Excellent. And let's move to our next component or next assets which is available for you. So which is the YOMA Teams. So basically YOMA generator for Microsoft Teams development. So obviously you might have been really familiar with SharePoint framework development if you come from a SharePoint side. If you don't, you probably have heard about YOMA generators because industries, it is a pretty much industry standard for implementing modern web stack development tooling, unless you're using a CLI, but that's a completely different discussion. Now, the YOMA generator anyway, the YOMA Teams gives you a tooling to generate solutions for the Microsoft Teams. So it actually gives you capabilities of creating tabs, creating bots, creating messaging extensions, personal applications, and all of that. And it is an open source tooling completely. So we have a team open, which consists from Microsoft people and also from MVPs and community members building this tooling based on the input what you provide. It's been actually, the usage of this tool has been growing quite significantly within the spring, and we can predict that it continues growing in the future as well. Now, you might have actually heard that there was also additional development tooling available and released in the Microsoft Build timeframe, which is basically complementing the YOMA Teams, or YOMA Teams is complementing that tooling which was available. So none of these are let's say replacing each other, they're just complementing those different developments and personas which are available within the world. Now, let's actually have a quick look on the YOMA generator for Teams and what it actually means in practice. And let's call this sample solution. I'm going to use the current folder because I'm already in the folder which I want to use. Title of the Microsoft Teams app project would be visible for the end user. So let's call this my awesome sample. Your company name, in this case, let's do Contoso, which development framework or which version of the manifest we want to use. So basically, always when there's a new version of the Teams manifest, we update the YOMA generator as well. And we're going to use the latest one. Do we have a Microsoft Partner ID? That's fine. And this one was the one which I actually really wanted to concentrate on. So YOMA generator for Teams actually gives you a support for creating all of these individual things. And what's really, really cool on the output of this scaffolded solution is that it actually works as such. So there's a starting point which you can really easily get to work in the Microsoft Teams as well. I'm not going to actually do the scaffolding because it takes a while, but basically it doesn't matter if you create a bot or a tab, you are pretty much ready to go to test out the solution. So then it's really the power of the YOMA generator for Teams, because it is so simple to get started, especially after a while if you read the documentation. Obviously, none of us know how to get started if you don't read the documentation, but it is super easy there's a ready-to-use guidance, ready-to-use sample outputting from the YOMA generator. So what do we actually get when we then generate the solution? This is just a super simple solution. It is a one-tab solution where we have then the manifest file and manifest available, scaffolded and created for us based on the information which we provided in the YOMA generator. You can actually see also an interesting set of additional tags and interesting set of settings here, which we always keep up to date. Now, I'm not going to deep dive, as said, on the structures and things, but what I wanted to show that just the default output, which is coming from the YOMA Teams YOMA generator, is ready to go to be used in Microsoft Teams or in SharePoint, which is actually pretty cool. So how we're going to do this is that we're going to use ncroc, and as part of this solution, we install automatically ncroc libraries. So we're going to make it super easy for actually start debugging locally your solution, even though it's actually running in the Microsoft Teams or it's running in the SharePoint side. And what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to run gulp ncroc serve. And what this command actually does in the generator, it regenerates this package with an ncroc endpoint. And we don't have to do anything. Everything is automatic. So we don't have to worry about, well, how that will work? How do we make it happen? All of this stuff is happening behind the scenes. So we're actually starting a web service. We're starting the ncroc endpoint. Our host name is now available in internet through this particular URL. And what it means also is that we actually, the solution generator, created us an updated Hello World zip package, because my solution name is Hello World, which I can install now in Teams or in the SharePoint app catalog. And let's quickly do that to actually see how easy it is to test this one. So I'm going to use first my Microsoft Teams installation in this particular tenant. Nice portal, by the way, which you can absolutely embed on the team as well. I'm going to go to the apps. I'm going to go to my app catalog in my corporate app catalog. I'm going to upload my custom app from my local computer. And what I'm going to actually do that, let me actually get the URL or the package. Doesn't matter what are the small things. I'm going to basically upload the zip file, the app catalog of the teams. And I'm going to slightly actually increase this one so you can see what's happening. So I went from apps to the build for M365 PMP, and I uploaded my awesome solution, the one which we just created using the YOMA generator. And the package was regenerated automatically so that when I use my awesome, let's see this in practice. So when I actually use my awesome solution in a tab, let's actually do that. We can see that within the Visual Studio Code, we are getting served our assets from here. So let's actually make that happen in practice. So if I go to the teams in general, I'm going to add my awesome tab. I should actually find it, but it's probably under awesome. Yes, it is, because it's such an awesome tab. And I can actually add it to my team channel as an individual tab. And what is really cool here, I can obviously configure that. This is already coming actually from my local host, so we can actually see the request coming in here. And let's do this one step at a time, side by side. I know that it gets pretty small, but bear with me. So if I actually put here a value or configuration, we actually take that value and also render that as part of the served. But what we can see in this side of the window is that our local box is serving that particular piece of code, and it actually works properly in the Microsoft Teams. That's pretty cool. And it actually even gets better. So I can actually go also to SharePoint, and by default, YOMA generator for Teams also generates, if you want, solutions which actually work inside of the SharePoint as well. And what we mean with that one is that that same Hello World package, which was under the same folder structure, which we just generated, I can drag and drop that one to our app catalog in SharePoint Online. It's going to prompt the approval of that package, because obviously as a tenant administrator or app catalog manager, you need to know what you're installing. I'm going to make it available across my organization, and it's now deployed. What's really cool, the same solution again, installed in the app catalog of SharePoint. And if I now go and create a new page, add a page, Let's do a blank page and create a page. And now we should see our awesomeness. Let's not do a typo. Awesome stuff here. There's my awesome. There's the configuration options the same way as it is in the SharePoint in the team side, and voila, are exactly the same implementation is available in the SharePoint side. Great. And then the last kind of an asset that what we wanted to this time talk about in the PMP session, if you've seen us talk about PMP in the past, you've seen the structure of what we do. There's so many goodies available, so we need to choose just a subset which we can actually show. So this time what we wanted to actually mention is really about the samples and solutions which are available in the GitHub for you, because there is more than 500 samples on the different areas of Microsoft 365 development. Some of them are older sample for maybe for adding model. Some of them are for Microsoft Teams. Some of them are for list formatting, which are more power user samples, so enabling list extensibility with a CSOM configuration or JSON configuration, so to say. But basically, there is a different level of solution and demonstrating different kind of concepts, and the complexity of their solution also vary. In the demo, we can actually have a look on a slightly complex solution, but there are much more simplified solutions available as well. And as you can see from the slide, we're going to walk through some of these galleries in the demo as well. There's quite a nice galleries available, so you can actually find the relevant sample for you. So you don't have to go to the GitHub and start finding throughout the GitHub repos what's relevant for you. There's a nice looking portals available, which helps you to find the relevant sample, hopefully unblocking your day-to-day work. So let's have a look on what's available on the sample side. We have multiple different sample galleries, the samples and solutions, and there are basically categories and lists available. So from here, you can access all of these galleries. But from the galleries, what you actually get is, for example, samples for web parts and SharePoint Framework web parts, which you can then access and view from a multiple different perspectives. So the same samples, for example, based on the version of the SharePoint framework which they've been built on, or same samples based on the compatibility and which of them actually work in the Microsoft Teams, because SharePoint framework web parts work in the Microsoft Teams as well, which we're going to see in a second as well. We also have SharePoint framework extension sample gallery, where you can actually go and based on the extension type, you can find an application customizer, or you're looking list view command heads, you can scroll down and have a look on what kind of samples are available. And obviously, whoever contributed, we will clearly call out who's the MVP, like Paolo or Simon or Anup, who've been contributing the samples. Well, not necessarily an MVP, but a community member who have actually shared the sample. Now, some of these are actually from Microsoft employees as well. We also have really cool list formatting samples. So we have column formatting samples and view formatting samples, and this basically gives you the capability of modifying SharePoint lists and library renderings. And there is, I think there's more than 100 samples already available. And it is really around the fact that it empowers the power user, not just developer, but you as a power user, you can go to a list, you can modify the list rendering using a JSON, JSON files, and then basically paste that to the list rendering, and that's going to change the rendering of the list. So really, really cool stuff as well, and plenty of samples available. Also, a lot of videos available about this one in our YouTube channel. Now, pretty recently started also working on the Teams dev samples, community samples. So we're collecting now more and more community samples to the BMP as well. This doesn't yet have a gallery in it, but it will be there after the initial release, depending again when you're watching the video and the demo video. Now, this time we can actually quickly have a look on the Leads LOB solution. This is an example of a reference solution. So a lot of the samples are simple, but some of them might be slightly more complex. And the Leads solution is one which is quite complex one, but it actually is a really, really great demo. And so I'm going to walk through what this is. I'm going to touch the different scenarios, how the Leads solution actually works. So the Leads solution is a SharePoint framework solution. So what it means is that you can actually use it in multiple different platforms as well. Almost like we did with Teams, tabs can be used in Microsoft Teams and in SharePoint. The SharePoint framework solution can be used in Microsoft Teams and SharePoint as well, which might be confusing, but again, there's a multiple differences which one of these you would like to use in practice. But let's concentrate on this particular scenario. So the Lead solution itself, you can actually expose that in the SharePoint as an individual application page. So if I go to the leads in here and actually create a page based on that, we can see that we are actually having this application page in SharePoint, which is taking the full page. So let's call it that page 12, so I'm not overlapping with anything else. And you can see that the individual solution is taking the full page and it's listing leads from the leads management system. And you can also filter down what kind of solutions and filtering you want to see. For example, the required attention, you'll see less of those leads, and most probable is a different kind of leads. And then clicking these, you could actually open up the leads management system. Right now, it doesn't do that. Now, because it's a web part or a SharePoint framework solution, you can absolutely expose that in any page as well. So you can basically just create a page. Let's create a blank page. And in here, let's actually add the leads solution to this page. So the lead solution, they're available. You can configure that. Let's get rid of that one. You can configure that based on the settings. It is now in the demo mode, so it actually shows some content automatically. But again, pretty cool experience. It is I need to give it a name to the page, and let's publish that. So it is a web part, so it adapts on the page. You can actually configure that based on the settings as well. Well, that's pretty cool. And pretty recently, within almost actually or a year ago, we enabled the leads to be also available in the Microsoft Teams as a tabs. So again, the same piece of code. You didn't have to recompile, you didn't have to do anything for this code as a SharePoint framework solution, and it actually works in the Microsoft Teams as a tab as well. And we actually automatically host it for you. You don't need to worry about even hosting or deployments or optimization. Everything is completely automatic. I'm not going to deep dive how and where, but that's just natively within a SharePoint. What's really cool, since the SharePoint Framework 1.10 and the lead solution actually shows that one as well, you can actually have the leads also as a personal application. So you can actually even in that solution to the left panel of the Microsoft Teams, and then you can actually have multiple different views to the same data. So it's most probable, recent commended, leads, and work on the leads data. You can have a settings tab there. You can configure the different options and settings related on that particular solution. That's pretty cool as well. Now, the following thing is not yet available openly when I'm even recording this video. So depending on when you're actually watching the video, this might be available or might not be available. So let me actually open up the right location, and it's this one in here. And this one I'm actually running in our eDoc environment because this doesn't yet work in any of the other environments, but it's coming pretty soon. Again, the lead solution is here. When the leads web part, there we go. We have the leads web part, but starting with the upcoming SharePoint framework version, you can actually also build messaging extensions. And messaging extensions are something which actually work together with the bots. And you can actually see those individual leads in the discussion. So I can actually have a discussion with, hey, Joe, can you share the relevant, if I can write, relevant leads, and then somebody can actually reply on the discussion. I know that it's pretty small. Let me actually slightly bump up the font. So I can actually go and say, here it is, and I can actually start a messaging extension. And in the same way as with the web part, as with the tab, as with the personal application, we can actually expose the same piece of code and same implementation, but we enable that to be a messaging extension from where you can then select the relevant lead. And I can click that one. Let's say that it's CAME controller 3300. I click that one. It's actually taking that lead and putting that one in the discussion. So now the CAME controller 3000 is a messaging extension as part of the discussion of what you're having together with your employees or with your colleagues, which is basically there included in there. And that's pretty cool. And that works up to the level of actually, you can have those messaging discussions in the bot implementation, or you can have those messaging discussions inside of your personal application. So in this case, the leads solution, again, it has the new leads, the normal look and feel. It's a personal application, but it also has a chat where I can have a messaging extensions fired up, and I can select the discussion. I can have a discussion about the lead together with a bot or potentially with the external other employees within your company. So that's all of the samples and kind of a technical or let's say developer-oriented stuff. Well, some of the samples are not just for developers. Maybe some of them are for IT pros as well in our sample gallery. But one of the really new cool things, which we have relatively recently started also doing, is our Microsoft 365 community docs. And this is really for those people and community members who feel more natural about writing guidance, not just development guidance, but non-development guidance. So kind of practices and governance, learnings, and stories from the real world. And the intention of this one really is to collect, again, the common knowledge of the community to have one centralized location, rather than have it cross the internet in the individual blog post. And absolutely, you can still do your blog post and write your stuff in blog post, but some of those blog posts might be suitable in the centralized location as a story, as an article. And obviously, all of the people who are contributing in here will get credited and called out by Microsoft in our public messaging as well. So I strongly encourage, if you, even though you wouldn't actually have the, let's say, development skills or IT pro scripting skills, you would actually contribute on this initiative, which is growing, and there's a good amount of community members actually writing awesome stuff in this location as well. As we started going through the reuse section within this presentation, I said that there's so many items, so many initiatives running what we do within the PMP, and that's definitely true. This is the 9 things which we didn't have a time to go through. Now, again, there's a lot of assets, there's a lot of projects available. How can I remember all of these AKMS addresses and all of the things where I can access things? And as mentioned, we want to make this as easy as possible for you. You have one URL to remember, which is AKMS M365 BMP, and you can see the welcome page actually on the screen as well. So that's basically what you find, and from there you can then find all of the links to our guidance, community goals, samples, and solutions, to SDKs and tools. So we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you. If you don't like something, by the way, give us feedback. If you have an idea, how can we help you even more, give us feedback. So because we exist here basically for you, so making your life as easy as possible. Now, the final section, what we actually want to go through, was the share. So PMP is all about learning, reusing, and then sharing. And the sharing part, we always kind of cover the fact that you can contribute, and there's a lot of people who are contributing. So in the following slide, you'll see all of the people who contributed during 2020. And we're talking about people who contributed by, is it 14th of May when we're recording this video? So a lot of people are actually contributed already at this time. I can't remember, was it 200 people already, but you can see the list of names on the slides. And I think I used 8-pixel font on the slides, just make sure that everybody can fit it in. And also we have more than 40 different companies which have contributed already or let their employees to contribute to our open source asset, open source projects. And that's super important as well. So these companies are giving their own employees the opportunity to participate to these PMP open source assets and then contribute back based on the learnings what they have from their day-to-day work. So thank you for that one as well. Now, one of the new things what we're doing also in 2020 is that we're growing the so-called BMP team. The BMP team is the set of MVPs and Microsoft employees who actually coordinate the work what we do within the open source side. And right now, I think we had 26 people in this team, which consists from MVPs and Microsoft employees across the world. And we're looking into further extending this team in the future as well, because the only way we can scale or make even more awesome tooling and projects available is by scaling, growing the team, getting more MVPs involved, getting more community members involved. So if you're interested on being more closely involved, please contribute, be part of the projects, be active on the projects, and then you will potentially get nominated to be part of the team in the future. Like I said, please do get involved. AKMS M365 is the address to get access and seeing all of our projects which are available. And by engaging within these projects, you can actually help other people to be successful as well. And hopefully kind of pay back also if the project has given to you any value for your day-to-day work. And just kind of recapping, it is really around the fact that we have those 3 different words: learn, reuse, and share, and that's really how we're thinking the Microsoft 365 PMP. We want to provide you guidance, samples to be more efficient within your work. We want to give you reusable components, controls, and tooling so we can increase your productivity. And then we want to give you an opportunity to share and to be part of the community by contributing together to this global initiative where we help each other within the internet. But that's all we can actually talk about today. So thank you for watching and hopefully find the content interesting. Thank you.